Okay, welcome to ATA's webinar on November 16th, 2023. We're very happy to have you here. Thank you to those who have found the poll that has been launched. Please go ahead if you have not yet done it and answer that poll for us. But to start off our webinar today, I will go ahead and hand off the beginning to Mr. Mike Robinson. Thank you.
Well, thanks everybody for joining. I'm Mike Robinson, Vice President of Government Relations and Community Affairs at Hawaii Pacific Health, and also a board member of the Hawaii Economic Association. I'm just filling in today for our chair, Leslie Harvey, who couldn't make today's panel discussion, but I really appreciate everybody joining. Looking forward to a very thoughtful discussion that's both data-driven as well as sharing the human side of the situation following the Maui wildfires. Just some housekeeping measures, a couple things. As an attendee, you're a view-only participant, and you'll remain muted for the duration of the webinar. You'll be able to interact with the hosts, panelists, and other attendees by using the chat forum down below. Second, please use the Q&A function to pose questions, which are visible to all of those in attendance. We encourage attendees to give a thumbs up on questions you want to see addressed. And the moderator will solicit questions as time permits, prioritizing questions with a significant number of upvotes. So those voting on those questions, we do pay attention to and do matter. And finally, a link to our feedback form will be shared in the chat function towards the end of the event. And before you leave, please be sure to fill out those forms and the survey questions. They're really important to us as a board to help improve these offerings going forward. So I'd like to thank you again, and if you have not completed the poll, please take a minute now to do so. So I'm pleased to bring you this webinar on housing Maui residents and visitors. We'll hear from Lisa Paulson, the Executive Director of the Maui Hotel and Lodging Association, as well as Jennifer Chun, the Director of Tourism Research at DBEDT, and an HEA board director. This panel will be moderated by fellow board director Tina Rasmussen, founding partner of Skog Rasmussen LLC. And then I'd like to briefly introduce our moderator and board director, Tina Rasmussen, before turning it over to her. During Tina's 40+ years as a resident of Maui, Tina has generously given her time to nonprofits and education-based institutions, as well as dedicated a great deal of her expertise to business and industry advocacy. Prior to co-founding Skog Rasmussen LLC in January 2019 with Jenny Skog, Tina served as director of the Office of Economic Development for the County of Maui for 8 years. During her tenure, she oversaw an $80 million portfolio of economic development grants, accomplished projects in energy, film, agriculture, tourism, workforce development, and business development. Tina's public service includes UH Board of Regents, Agribusiness Development Corp., Community-Based Economic Development Advisory Council, Maui Economic Development Board, Farm Service Agency State Committee, Governor Small Business Advisory Council, SBA Regional Advisory Board, and former director of the Mayor's Office of Economic Development of Maui County. She's also been in private business as a co-owner and vice president of Paradise Flower Farm. So really happy to have Tina, both as one of our newest board members and serving as moderator in this panel. And so with that, Tina, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike, for that very generous introduction. I have the pleasure of introducing our first speaker today, Jennifer Chun. Jennifer is, as Mike said, the Director of Tourism Research for the state of Hawaii at DBED, leading the Research and Economic Analysis Division's Tourism Research Branch. The Tourism Research Branch works closely with the Hawaii Tourism Authority. Jennifer was previously the Director of Tourism Research for HTA. She has analyzed tourism data in Hawaii for more than 25 years. And prior to joining HTA, she was the director at Hospitality Advisors, LLC, Hawaii's leading hotel, tourism, and real estate consulting firm. and was formerly a member of PricewaterhouseCoopers Global Hospitality and Leisure Industry Group. Jennifer has a master's degree from Cornell University in Hotel and Restaurant Administration and a bachelor's degree in Asian Studies from Dartmouth. So we are very pleased to welcome Jennifer to give us some data that we can all help us comprehend the issue that we are dealing with here on Maui that is affecting us statewide. So go ahead, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina. Okay, I'm going to attempt to share my screen and then put it in presentation mode. Okay, does it look okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. So thank you all for having us. So this is going to be a Maui update, and I'm going to concentrate on tourism. But what I wanted to highlight is that, you know, in response to the great need for data as from the Maui fires, DBED put together this fact sheet. We do this Maui wildfires economic update. There's a number of pages, and we have expanded it over time, and it updates every Friday. So that's the link there. So some of the information you'll see is from what's currently on the website right now, and it will be updated tomorrow. So that's the timing on that. So first of all, I wanted to talk about the daily passenger counts to Maui. So one of the things that we saw on August 7th, right before the fire happened, you know, we had pretty strong arrivals to Maui. And then as you know, we see this decline. And one of the things that we were concentrating on during this period, you know, DBED and HTA, we were working on evacuating passengers out of Maui to Honolulu and other places. So the airlines really kicked in and like stopped their direct service to Maui, for many flights got canceled. So going on to October 8th, when the governor says we're going to reopen, you know, there was like a little over half the amount of passengers on direct trans-Pacific flights to Maui. So not inter-island, just trans-Pacific. And then on November 1st, when Mayor Bisson announced that everything was going to reopen, people were completely freaked out that there was going to be this onslaught of all these visitors. But when you see the amount of visitors that we had, and actually this is all passengers on the plane for November 1st, it wasn't at, you know, anywhere close to what we had earlier in the summer. So
Jennifer, if you excuse me, could you make your slide full screen? I think we're just seeing.
Are you not okay? So you're not seeing the right. You're not seeing the right screen then. So that's why I was asking if you saw the right screen. So let me try again and find the slideshow. Okay, now can you see the full screen?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay, so I'm going to go back so you can see the lovely trans-Pacific daily passenger counts to Maui, and then you can actually see what I'm talking about on this trend line here. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the Maui unemployment claims. And what this is on the left-hand side is a chart of initial claims. So as you can see, in the weeks following the fire, there were a lot of people who made claims for unemployment. And as we continue throughout November, we do see an additional number of claims made, as there are businesses out there that are suffering from that lack of tourism. So we see that. One of the things that we see on the right-hand slide are looking at Maui initial claims as a percentage of total state initial claims. And you can see how in the beginning, we jumped up to 83, almost 84% of the total claims in the state were from Maui. And as we go down, you know, that number is getting down to more like a third of the claims. But if you look pre-fire, that number was closer to 11%. So there is very much an increase after that Lahaina fire. Looking at weeks claimed, so this is
called weeks claim, but it's not actually counting weeks. So these are the unemployment claims that are being paid out. And one of the things that we do see is that this trend, as we get closer into November, the number is decreasing. And the reason why it's decreasing is, one, some businesses are reopened, some of the hotels are bringing staff back. But the other thing too is that if you were out of work on Maui and you moved to Oahu or Kauai or somewhere else or on the mainland, you are taken out of this Maui number. So you might have claimed for Maui, but you're living somewhere else, so you're counted on another island. And so if we look at the percentages of the claims as a percentage state total, it's been relatively in that 60 to 50 percentage range. So since this webinar is about hotels, I wanted to take a look at the hotel trends. So what we see here on this slide is the hotel and occupancy numbers for statewide hotels. And the dark blue line is 2023, and the lighter blue is 2022, and the light blue line is 2019. So if we look at that bar, the average daily rate, we can see statewide average daily rate up and through May was higher in 2023 than it was in 2022 or in 2019. However, going into the summer, June, July, August, we do have a little bit of softening of the average daily rate. And it bumps up a little bit more in September. But if you look at that light blue line, which is 2019, the occupancy levels for 2022 and 2023 have not exceeded occupancy levels for 2019. Looking at Maui in particular, so that was the statewide trend. What we're seeing here on an average daily rate basis is actually some softening of that rate even before the overall statewide softening. And so if you look at April, which is pretty much on par with 2022, and then already May, June, July, August, that rate is below what we saw in 2022. And again, this is for Maui County. So this does include Lanai and Molokai properties and, all of the rest of Maui Island, including Wailea, Kihei, Wailuku, Kahului, and in addition to West Maui. So if we look at an even more granular basis on a weekly thing, we can see clearly here where that dark green line is 2023. We do see that drop in occupancy for that week of the fire, and we have seen it climb up somewhat, and then it's coming back down for that October period, but makes sense because if you look at the trend line for 2022 and 2019, there is some seasonality where there is that decrease that we see in the fall that naturally happens. So that's not necessarily directly related to impacts from the fire, but this is again all of Maui County. Looking at West Maui in particular, we do see that deep decrease in the week of the fire and the week after, and slowly as we are reopening some of those properties north of the impacted area, we do see that overall increase in occupancy for the West Maui area. So that goes all the way from Lahaina all the way to Kapalua. And we also see that the rate has been relatively steady compared to 2022, a little bit lower than 2022 in the most recent months. And this occupancy, of course, includes all of the displaced residents, the FEMA workers and other workers that are there. And they are, of course, not staying for free. So that's why the average daily rate is not like plummeting, like some people might think that the rate should have gone to like almost zero, but that's not the case because the Red Cross and FEMA were paying for displaced residents and their workers. So Wailea, as well as the rest of the state, has been affected by what's happening on the West Maui side. So we did see that decrease in occupancy. So again, dark blue line is 2023 with the lighter blue line being 2022. We did see that big drop in occupancy. which is at a steeper drop than we saw. So if you look at 2022, yes, there was some trending down, but what we see is on a weekly basis a bigger drop for Wailea than we did last year, and the rates are much lower in Wailea right now than they were last year. But that being said, last year the hotel rates in Wailea were bananas, yeah, as a technical term. So looking forward, this is the scheduled air service for Kahului Airport. So on the left side, we have the number of scheduled flights, and on the right side, we have the number of scheduled air seats. And part of the reason why we look at both flights and air seats is that as the airlines change out their aircraft, the number of seats can change. So if you look on the bar on the left, that is prior year. So when we're looking at November, which is the dark blue for 2022 and the light blue for 2023, we see that there are significantly more flights in November of 2022 than there are right now. And there are various reasons why airlines have cut back service, including kind of routing more of that direct service to Oahu. But we see this consistency in looking at November, December, January. There's more seats in the prior year and more flights in the prior year. For December and January, more flights. And then the seats are kind of flat for January of 2024 compared to January of 2023. Looking at these air ticket bookings, so we have access to data that looks at air ticket bookings from travel agencies and direct to airlines. And so the data that we have on the website actually breaks this data out between travel agency and direct. And so for those of you who are in the industry, you will care about the source of whether or not it is coming through which partner or whether it's direct to your website. So these are bookings, again, air bookings. So these are people who have tickets as of right now compared to right now last year. So this is kind of what we're looking at on pace. So if we're looking at blue being 2022 and green being 2023 for November and December, we can see that, November and December for Maui, for all the different markets, are off pace, and that continues to be soft through the first part of the year. Going through it by market, so the main markets that travel to Maui are the US market and Canada. So again, we see that pace being off compared to the same time last year. And then Canada is doing a little bit better than the US market, where, there's a little bit more closeness for the booking pace there. So that's the end of the data presentation that I have. And we have a lot more information on the website. So these are lists of some tourism research websites. I have data on the Hawaii Tourism Authority website, on the DBED website. We have passenger counts that we showed, and the passenger count dashboard is actually kind of awesome. So please check that out if you're interested in the daily passenger counts. We have tourism dashboards. We have an economic data warehouse and a tourism data warehouse in case you're interested in making your own slides. And then this is a list of my tourism research publications. It tells you where they are on the DBED website, where they are on the HTA website, and what the cadence is. So that is it for me. And I will stop sharing.
All right, thank you. Thanks so much, Jennifer. Those were really telling slides there. I also wanted to remind everybody that if a question pops into your head, just go ahead and write it into the Q&A, and we will be covering those questions when we finish with our second panelist, who I'm going to introduce now. And we have Lisa Paulson here. Lisa is a 29-year resident of Maui, and she is currently serving as the executive director for the Maui Hotel and Lodging Association. She has served in that capacity since 2012, except for a brief hiatus where she worked in the mayor's office as the mayor's tourism liaison. Lisa has volunteered her time to help numerous nonprofits on Maui, notwithstanding the fact that she has organized 9 visitor industry charity walks that have raised over $9 million for Maui's nonprofits. Maui is truly in an unprecedented time, as is our whole state. And Lisa, we know how very busy you are and all of the demands that are on you as of now. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you, Tina, and thank you for the opportunity to share some of the things that are going on right now here on the island of Maui. You know, there's been a lot of questions that I have been asked, and I'm just going to go through those right now, and then I'm very, very happy to take additional questions during the Q&A. You know, immediately after the fires, the hotels were the obvious place to shelter our displaced residents. And those numbers continue to be very fluid and every day. And just a shout out and thank you to all of our hotel partners for, you know, quickly setting up their properties and opening their doors to government and all of our displaced residents. So what type of commitments have been made is the biggest question. And each hotel has its own contract with Red Cross. So the American Red Cross is operating the housing under a contract with the state of Hawaii, and that is funded through FEMA's non-congregate sheltering program. So basically, the Red Cross has a contract with the state of Hawaii, and then Hawaii is seeking reimbursement from FEMA. So each hotel has their own contract. Many of them have extended it. I have properties that have already extended to February 2024. There is one very important thing to note, that nobody will ever be completely displaced out of a hotel. That is not what any of us would do. That's not what the state or FEMA or Red Cross would ever do to any of our residents. They may be moved into 3 to 5 hotel properties so that we can have wraparound services provided in those exclusive 3 to 5 properties. We do see this as a long-term commitment to our residents and the need for those wraparound services. In the meantime, yes, there have been visitors in some of these properties. The stories that we're hearing is a lot of these visitors are contributing their time, and they're spending part of their vacation in volunteering, doing fundraisers. We had a group come into Wailea that spent part of their group time putting together a fundraiser and raising money exclusively for our displaced residents. So there's a lot of beautiful stories out there of our guests coming and being a part of the healing and the helping. We do also have some data from our workers, and ILWU did a survey of 2,700 of their registered members. And out of 2,700 members, 85% said, yes, I'm ready. I'm wanting to go back to work. We're hearing a lot of our workers that are saying, it will help. It will help give me purpose. It will help with the healing. And yes, I do want to go back to work. And obviously, if an employee is not ready to go to work, nobody would make that happen. One thing that did come out of that survey that is a little concerning is that already 10% have left the island. And that is a trend that we are concerned with and we are tracking. They're going back to their home states, their home countries, and we are worried very much about that loss of employees, from our workforce. The other thing that I would like to bring up is that group business was trending down just a little bit before the fires. There was pent-up demand and commitments from the pandemic, And we were seeing the fulfillment of those group bookings all the way up to Q2 of 2023. So we are very hopeful that we can start to bring back our group business and look for those bookings, because here on Maui, that is our bread and butter, our group business. And we are hopeful that we can start to bring those back in and put more and more of our workers back, you know, in full-time mode. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yes, the other question, Tina, that you had asked is, what are we doing right now to get the residents into more mid to long-term housing? Currently, we are, the state and the county are working on actually cold calling a lot of our short-term vacation rentals owners. Most of these owners, about 75% of them, are located on the mainland and also in other countries. So it does require a reach out, and it is being done on a one-by-one basis. We are asking them to look at letting us use their unit to house our displaced residents. It will be totally up to them for how long. There is a reimbursement that is being worked on with FEMA and the state. And then there is protection for the landlords in the current emergency proclamation that Governor Green just put out, that takes away that landlord tenant code to protect them. So there are pieces in place. It is slow moving. I know that it's not moving as fast as any of us would like it to be moving, but that is another phase that we are implementing, where we're trying to get our residents into units that have kitchens, have yards, and have laundry facilities, because when we make them whole, that's when the healing can truly begin. So that is my update, and I am very, very happy to entertain any questions. You're muted, Tina.
My gosh. Okay, that was a rookie mistake. Okay, so please put your questions in the Q&A now. So Lisa, you said that the hotels each have a contract with Red Cross. When they do a contract with the Red Cross, what is it looking like as far as timing? Do they go like on a month-to-month basis, or how does that work with the Red Cross?
So it's just like any other contract. Each property will work with the Red Cross and either extend for 6 months, for 2 months. It's all in their discussions, and then also the state's discussions in trying to moving into just 3 to 5 areas. So it is a case-by-case basis at this point.
Okay. I see actually a question coming in on the chat. So please use your Q&A, because that's what I'm looking at. But it says, is the Maui mayor even considering a mandatory conversion of STR condo to LTRs?
Right. So
One of the explain to everyone what those acronyms mean.
So STR, short-term rental, LTR, long-term rental.
Got it.
There's also non-owner occupied that we're looking at as well. So these are all tax classifications for real property tax reasons. That is also, thank you, Michael, for that question. That is also something that will be given as a benefit to those that volunteer their unit. They will automatically be shifted over to a long-term real property tax rate, which would lower their taxes significantly. However, doing a mandatory call to owners to switch their units over, that is a bit of a legal challenge when you're asking somebody to take their owned property and do something with it without their permission. So, you know, that's why we're working with each owner individually and working with them, because they have a lot of questions, and especially when it comes to landlord tenant protections. So at this time, we will not be doing that, but we are very carefully looking at every avenue we can.
And Lisa, how many actual people are being housed in hotels today?
So it's very fluid, but what we do know is we have 2,700 families that need mid to long-term housing. And we already had a housing crisis before the fires, as you're very well aware. So this has been extremely difficult. We are looking at, what other kind of short-term housing we can get, that's temporary with churches and other groups. So it is it's what keeps me up at night. And it's something that we're all engaged with on a daily basis.
We have a question that came in. How much have non-hotel businesses on Maui, both West Maui and elsewhere, been impacted by the decline of visitors?
Yeah, small businesses have been heavily affected. I know that the business grants just came out last week, and I was very happy to see that funding option for them. We are also hearing of many businesses that, were just coming back from the pandemic, and this was something that they do not see the ability to come back from. So I am fearful that we're also losing quite a few of our businesses that have been on island for generations. We are looking, the county is putting together kind of a street fair economic program where we're going to have some units put together where businesses can open up there on the west side of Maui. That is in its final planning stages, and I'm hoping that something will be pushed out there quickly for those businesses.
I also want to make a comment on
Yes,
that
go ahead.
question, because Paul, you asked this question and we don't have the answer at DBED. So now you ask the question, you can calculate it. So stay tuned. Maybe Paul will have the answer in a few weeks.
Right. The next question is, let me see, to click on this. The next question is, which hotels are continuing their contracts with FEMA and Red Cross after November?
I don't have an answer for that. I apologize. I don't get involved with each hotel management's discussion with FEMA and Red Cross, but I will have a list of those properties by the end of this month on who is continuing into 2024.
Okay. And another one is, what is the cash burn rate for housing per month? And how long will FEMA keep funding it 100%? That's a great question. I don't know if we know. Do you know the answer for that?
I wish I had the question, and that is something to, I would say, Jen, correct me, but that's like a question for the governor's office.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Unfortunately, Director Tokioka, who is overseeing this whole effort, is in Japan right now. But this is the kind of thing that he, in representing the governor, would respond with. But me, as a worker bee who can see some of the data, I'm not allowed to share that data. So, so sorry about that. But when he comes back, somebody can interview him. I think that was Noelle that asked that question, right? So.
Right. And how long will the Red Cross and FEMA continue paying for these 2,700 families? Do we know that? Have they given an indication on how long that goes on?
That's kind of the same realm. That's a governor question. The state will continue to support all efforts, and then they go to FEMA for their reimbursement. So there will never, let me just put it this way, the support will not stop. As long as these families are in need, the support will not stop. And that means from county, state, federal, and all of our beautiful nonprofit organizations that have stepped up.
And to what extent is your association, Maui Hotel and Lodging Association, planning to engage in the 2024 legislative session? And if so, what would you be focusing on during this coming session?
So I am a registered lobbyist. We are always engaged with the state legislative session, and our position statements are currently being worked on. Number one is housing. And then, of course, number two is assisting with the economic situation here in Maui County. 3, 4, and 5 are being worked on right now, and those will be up on our website, mauihla.org, by the mid-December.
And Lisa, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the hotel operations now. You know, it's such a different type of setup when you have visitors and then you have residents, and you know, what kind of services are being provided, you know, to, I mean, of course, visitors are expecting their full housekeeping and so forth. The residents, because there's no kitchens, need to have food service. So just maybe give us an idea of how that's working inside of a hotel, you know, where they had to pivot to do this kind of both sides.
Right. So our hotels have been working with our government agencies and those that have had the displaced residents on their property. There has been a providing of 3 meals a day to everybody that is at each property. Those meals are not necessarily given from a restaurant. They are more of a congregate meal program that is delivered in different areas of each hotel. A lot of the restaurant, bar, poolside services were not in place. Some have still not put them back in place. Now in Wailea and other hotel areas, yes, they are full service at this time. But when it comes to our Kaanapali hotels specifically, again, the thought is in having our displaced residents in 3 to 5 properties exclusively, that will allow them to be in a space where there isn't as much combination with our visitors, and they can have access to 24/7 wraparound services as they still navigate through these tough times.
So does Red Cross have a desk like in the hotel lobby type of thing? I mean, they have services for these.
Yes, and the Hyatt has a very full service. FEMA pretty much took over all of their ballroom services right out of the gate. So you have SNAP there, you have DOE, you have mental health, you have every kind of connection to services. And yes, Red Cross it's an obligation, it's a part of the contract that they have to have presence in the hotel that they have a contract with. It's part of the deal.
Okay. Here's another question. Have you calculated the lost visitor spending dollars per, let's see, per week or per day for hotel rooms that are occupied by fire displaced? So I guess the question is, are we turning away visitors? And are these hotels turning away visitors? Or have they just not had, you know, very much demand and they've been able to handle both? Because they're asking, you know, how much loss of revenue is the hotel?
Yeah, Jen can probably answer that one more eloquently.
Right. So we calculated, you know, looking at between us and UHERO, we're estimating that it's approximately between a $9 and $11 million per day loss in visitor spending. However, the question is specifically about displaced rooms. So if you think about the chart that I had earlier that had the occupancy level for West Maui, for example, you know, none of those hotels were 100% full. So it's the question about how much visitor revenue are we losing, that's not really something that you can calculate because there's enough room in West Maui for more people to come if they wanted. So those residents aren't taking away anything from visitors.
Yeah. And Lisa, are there residents also being housed in the Wailea side, South Maui side, or are they all being housed in West Maui?
So I can't give specific locations, but yes, there are some still in South Maui. And again, we are trying to look at moving everybody into 3 to 5 properties, likely right there in the Kaanapali area, so that we can, again, combine those wraparound services and make it a lot more efficient and ease of use for everybody.
Have those properties been identified yet, or is that still in the works?
That I'm waiting for the governor's office to give us the final information on, because it is private contracts with FEMA and Red Cross.
And once that list comes out, then there will be an effort to move everyone then to those 3 to 5 properties. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm kind of stepping outside of my realm of expertise, and I don't want to say how things are going to go, but this is something that has been discussed, and we just everybody wants to do it sensitively enough so that those that have trauma from the fires, obviously, we don't want to cause any more harm. So I will let the governor's office make that press release and those decisions made known to the public.
Another question.
Sorry,
came
Tina,
into the
I
chat.
just
Oh,
wanted
yeah,
to
go ahead.
mention that, Lisa did mention earlier about these programs that are trying to happen with the short-term rentals and making them long-term rentals. And while there are hotels that you said, yes, we will commit to having these residents for a longer term, as she mentioned, it's not ideal. Like if these residents want to be in a house type situation, that's going to be determining how many people are in those hotels. So it depends on, how many short-term rentals they can put people in and all these kinds of things. So there's a lot of factors. So as Lisa said earlier, it's going to be fluid, and it's going to be fluid for a while.
Right. Yes. Lots of changes. We had another question that came in through the chat. Is there any effort to work with banks to postpone mortgage payments for those who lost their homes? I have heard, like with COVID, they allowed 3 months, but that is clearly not going to be enough for these fire victims. That's got to keep those displaced really stressed out. So any thoughts on that? Or maybe, any information you might have, Jennifer or Lisa?
I'm sorry, I don't at this time. I'm not.
That's way above our pay grade.
Yeah, well, but I do know, I do know that you can ask, they can ask for forbearance on foreclosure. I don't know. I've actually talked to people that have gone through that. I don't know how long that lasts. And so, yes, lots and lots of questions there. Yeah.
I do know that the county's website is a really wonderful source of information with these types of questions. I believe it's the mauinuistrong.info, and it has a lot of links to very helpful businesses and sites. So that might be a good place for that person, Jim, who posted that question.
I also want to make a shameless plug. DBED has these webinars called Pathways to Recovery, and we've been covering different topics, and people have the ability to directly ask our panelists and Director Tokioka some of these tough questions. And he has access to the governor. Lisa and I don't have access to the governor, but we do encourage everybody who's interested in those economic discussions to log into a DBED webinar, and there is a list of recordings for the past webinars. So if there's a topic in particular, many people have asked similar questions and kind of worked through all that. So please use that as a resource also.
And Lisa, I guess, one other thing I wanted to ask is there's been a lot of kind of news or maybe social media things about some confusion about residents being booted out of a hotel, or maybe they had to, or maybe they were, had to move. Maybe you could just kind of clarify, what actually has happened, and from what I understand, they aren't being displaced from hotels, but maybe they've had to move. Maybe you could just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so some of our properties that may be in a renovation phase or needing to move residents into another wing so that they can start prepping for renovations. Yes, some have been asked to move into other rooms. However, nobody has ever been asked to leave the property with nowhere else to go. We all appreciate social media for certain things, and we all don't appreciate social media because you know, the public tends to grab onto those wonderfully negative sentiments and just keep promoting them, but no one gets displaced completely. They may have to move to another property, they may have to move to another room, so that I do know for sure.
Yeah, very good, very good. All right, well, we've gone through all of our questions. Any wrap-up comments? Jennifer first, maybe any wrap-up comments that you would like to make, and then we'll ask Lisa.
Sure. So, you know, the data keeps on evolving. We try and provide as many resources on the DBED website. So I dropped into the chat the link to the Maui economic data. And again, it gets updated every Friday. And then also the link to the Pathways to Recovery webinar. And these are both excellent resources for people in our membership and elsewhere. So please share them indiscriminately with people.
And Lisa, I failed to ask one other question for you. You said that because they are having these 3 meals a day that they're being fed in the hotels. Are the kitchen staff that normally would work at a hotel, are they being employed to do that, or is it outside caterers bringing food in? I was just wondering how that setup is.
Depending on the property, some of our smaller condo hotels that do not have large kitchen facilities, they're working with outside restaurants like Merriman's and Kapalua. And then other wonderful food truck vendors who have really stepped up to the plate, and food hui's that have come together. So again, it's a case-by-case basis, but everybody is just trying to take care of our displaced residents so that they can completely focus on healing and you know, moving forward.
Okay, very good. Did you have any other last comments that you would like to?
No, thank you for the opportunity to share what is going on here on Maui, and thank everybody for their support and continued, you know, prayers and love for all of our residents here, and you know, for Lahaina and all of Maui. It's just very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you both, Jennifer and Lisa. And I just wanted to say finally, yes, you know, being a resident here and you know, continually engaging with, you know, people that we know from West Maui, it's just like every piece of this tragedy, you know, unveils another layer, another layer of a problem. And, you know, we've heard things like that West Maui, a lot of the homeowners and condos that were burned were underinsured, you know, and so then that presents a whole nother layer of insurance issues and the possibility of rebuilding and so forth. So just this is going to be with us for a very long time. I do know that they've gone into active debris removal, you know, process now. They're expecting that to take, you know, up to a year at least, to just get the properties cleaned off. So it's just going to be a really long haul for everyone, and we just encourage all of the residents of the state of Hawaii to please keep Maui in their thoughts and keep Maui at knowing that we're going to need a lot for a long time. So thank you so much. And I'll turn it back to Mike.
Great. You know, as you were speaking, Tina, I thought of probably 2 or 3 more panels discussions just based on what was discussed today that I think would be really viable, one specifically on industry and on insurance.
Yeah.
Think about a lot of that. And I think the shoe's waiting for the shoe to drop on that, but thank you. So I also want to send out, before we close out, I want to thank the events committee, Mary Alice Evans, Faith Rex, Mary L. Wong, and Leslie Harvey, as well as Tina for moderating this panel and coordinating today's event. Thank you, Mary, for your technical support. And thank you very much, Lisa, for joining us, and Jen Chun. Please complete the feedback form. Again, you'll find a link and the QR code on the screen, as well as in the chat. And a big mahalo to returning HEA members and to those attendees who are joining us for the first time. As you know, HEA strives to make our events relevant and beneficial to Hawaii's diverse business community by tackling topics that are pertinent and breaking them down to be accessible to a broad audience. I think today's panel discussion was just exemplary of our mission here at HEA. So thank you all for joining. And thank you for your time and attention. And be sure to send your feedback. We do discuss those at the board level. It really is valuable information. So please take the time to help us, again, provide a better offering for our members and others. I appreciate that. And join the HEA Ohana today. It's great to be a member. You get a discount in attending these webinars, and we're looking to grow it as much as we can, because economics is actually everywhere. It's something that we're trying to discuss broadly with everyone. So thanks again, and we'll see you at the next event, hopefully. Take
Mike,
care.
did you want to bring up our scholarship opportunity?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and actually, Mary, do you have that information handy? I do not have that
Yeah, so
slide, but
yeah, Mary has the slide up.
let me just say, yeah, we do have the slide here. The HEA does fund scholarships for undergrads that are at University of Hawaii, and the scholarship is now open for information. You can look. It's a $1,000 scholarship that we present to the student, and the scholarship application is coming up soon on the 27th. So please get the word out for that. It certainly helps our students fund education. Thanks for that.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Right. Aloha, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This will conclude our webinar. We'll see you at the next.